I did not expect to spend my Saturday afternoon in handcuffs on my own sidewalk, while the sheriff read me my rights for stealing my own store. By sunset I had my freedom, my inventory, and my name back, but my kids were already practicing their apology in matching aprons. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. My name is Henry. I am 68 years old, a grandfather of 3, and the owner of a stubborn little hardware store on the corner of Maple and 3rd. Everyone in town calls it Hank's, even though the sign says H. Walker and Son, because my father hung that plank in 1969 and he did not believe in changing what already worked. The store is small enough to know where every screw size lives and big enough to carry lumber if you are patient. It survived the big box that arrived on the bypass in the early 2000s and the e-commerce boom that promised the end of storefronts. It survived a roof cave-in during the winter of '91 and the summer the air conditioning died during the county heatwave, and we gave out paper fans my granddaughter Nora colored with marker suns. The place survived everything. Until my children tried to help. I should start with the reason they tried. It came from love. That is the truth. I have told this story 3 times to people who prefer a villain, and I do not have one to give them. Only a pair of adult children who forgot that a father's life looks simpler from the outside than it is on the inside. My son, Daniel, everyone calls him Danny even though he is 36 and a high school vice principal, called me 2 weeks before the incident. "Dad," he said, "we have a plan to make your life easier." I was behind the register counting washers into plastic bags by tens. Counting relaxes me. It moves through my hands like prayer. "Is that so?" I said, "because that is what you say when your adult child is telling you how to live better." "You still want that footbridge fixed behind the old mill, right?" he asked. "The one you keep paying the city to patch because you said Mom loved walking across it in spring?" I did. The creek runs behind the mill lot where my wife, Lorraine, used to photograph the lilacs. The footbridge has been a bandaged ankle for years, passed between budgets like a hot pan until nobody wanted to hold it. "We are going to fix it," he said. Lila is spearheading it. My daughter, Lila, is 33 and a freelance designer who can make any old thing look modern if you give her a laptop and coffee. She also has 2 children, Nora and Ben, who stacked paint stirrers into log cabins on the floor of my store while she worked from our back office once a week. I could hear Lila's voice in the background when Danny said her name. She took the phone. "Dad," she said, excited, breathless, "listen. We will raise the money digitally. Crowdfund the lumber. Get corporate sponsors. And we will streamline you." "Streamline me? You still do things analog. The permits. Vendor forms. Store inventory. Payroll. It is all paper stacks in your office. We can digitize the paperwork. We can consolidate your vendors. You will never have to stay late doing forms again." I looked up at the pegboard where I keep catalog orders in manila envelopes with pencil notes on the tabs. I looked at the green binder with my father's handwriting worn thin on the cover. Streamline, in theory, sounded like fewer late nights with a calculator and more time teaching my granddaughter how to sand a birdhouse without rounding the edges. "All right," I said. "But we do it together. You do not change a thing before I see it." "Of course," she said. Saturday. After Nora's soccer practice. I believed them. I did not ask for a project plan. That was my mistake. Saturday came. Nora scored her first goal, which mattered more to me than any streamlining ever could. We ate muffins in the parking lot while Ben handed me 2 dandelions and insisted they were trophies. We drove to the store, and my children announced that they had already started. Started what? I asked. Everything, Danny said. He held up his phone like a trophy of his own. Look. He had built a website, Save Our Footbridge. There were photos of the bridge in prettier light than it deserved and a video of me holding a board, saying, anything worth crossing is worth doing right. He must have filmed me from the picnic table last spring when I did not notice. Sponsors were listed. A local roofing company. The bakery on Sycamore. A logistics company that was definitely not local. Buttons read, donate materials. Donate cash. Donate time. Donate time connected to a sign-up portal. Donate materials connected to my vendor accounts. Donate cash connected to a payment processor with fees I did not recognize. Where did you get the photos? I asked. Your Facebook, Lila said, scrolling her own screen, pleased. And I pulled your branding from the H. Walker and Son graphics folder in your desktop. Dad, while Nora and Ben finished lunch, I cleaned your files. You had duplicates of everything. I made an archive. What did you move into that archive? I asked, too careful. I felt the pendulum in my chest swing between pride and warning. All the old stuff, she said. The forms nobody uses. The scans you never opened. The PDFs with names like Deed Old Final use this one. I sorted the permits by date. I sorted the titles too. You are welcome. Titles. I set my coffee down. For the truck. For the flatbed trailer. For the old Airstream you never use. And the creek lot behind the mill. The creek lot is what the footbridge sits on, I said. And I use the Airstream. I am halfway through restoring the cabinets. I meant you do not drive it. We listed it temporarily. You listed what temporarily? Dad, Danny jumped in, palms open, soothing, like he was dealing with a student who thought he had failed algebra. We put the trailer and the Airstream on the fundraiser auction as short-term incentives. People love experiences. The trailer goes home with a volunteer for a week. The Airstream hosts a pop-up photo booth for the event. Your name will be everywhere. And the lot behind the mill? That was a placeholder, Lila said. Just in the mock-up. We were testing the sponsor integration. I did not realize it went live. I should have said no right then. I should have pulled the plug on all of it, hugged my children, and told them we would find another way. But Nora ran in with icing on her face from a cookie the bakery had donated, and Ben bumped my knee and said, Grandpa, can I use the barcode scanner? I have never denied a child that scanner. The beep is candy to them. We made it through the afternoon without catastrophe. We scanned 100 boxes of deck screws to count a donation. We printed receipts. We watched the donors list grow long. By evening, a local news site picked up the story, Grandfather runs own bridge fix. The comments were kind. Strangers told me my hands looked steady. Someone sent $100 and wrote, my dad had hands like yours. I slept easy for the first time in a month. By morning, my voicemail was full. The bank. The city clerk. A man named Stan from a company called Marion Aggregation Services who explained, too slowly, that our integration had consolidated our vendor accounts into a single umbrella for efficiency, that our authorizations had transferred certain rights to their management system, and that he would be making a site visit at 11 to audit collateral for compliance. I hung up and called Danny. "It is under control," he said. "Do not panic. I am on my way." "Do not touch anything," I said. He and Lila arrived in a rush. Lila wore determination the way a firefighter wears a helmet. Danny carried coffee like a shield. We were still setting the plan when a white SUV with a magnet sign rolled down third and stopped at our curb. Marion Aggregation Services, it read. Underneath, local partner of Shipex Logistics. A man stepped out in a crisp polo. He shook my hand and called me Mr. Walker even after I told him to call me Henry. "I will need to see proof of ownership for the collateral tied to the bridge project," he said. "Standard. Your truck, your flatbed, your Airstream, and the lot behind the mill. Also any inventory pledged for the event." "I did not pledge anything as collateral," I said. He smiled like a dentist. "Your daughter did. She signed as your office manager." Lila went pale. "No, I linked the vendor accounts and clicked accept on the terms." "Those terms included a limited security interest," he said. He tapped his tablet. "We are very clear on that." "Not clear enough," I said. "Look," he said, attempting friendly. "We are supporters of community initiatives. We want your event to succeed. We just need to verify what we manage." "You are not managing anything," I said. "Sir," he said. "We already are." He pointed down the street. Two men in Shipex vests were backing my flatbed trailer into a hitch. The lot was open. We keep it so on weekends for folks who come in for a quick sheet of plywood. They moved with practiced speed. The sheriff's cruiser parked catty-corner and watched. "Do not," I said, and before the word left my lips, my body moved. I am not a runner, but a man does not think about his knees when somebody touches the trailer he built with his father's hands. I jogged the distance and put my palm on the railing. "Take your hands off private property," one of the men said. "This is my property," I said. "Not per this document," he said, and flashed a phone screen with my daughter's e-signature. Lila made a sound so small that for a second I thought it had come from a bird. I looked at her. She looked at me. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I know," I said. Then the siren chirped behind me. The sheriff stepped out. "Henry," he said, "because this is a town and we have known each other since Little League, there has been a complaint of interference." "Interference with who?" I asked. "Authorized agents," he said gently. "It is new paperwork. The clerk is checking it. For now, step back." I did not move my hand. You do not get to be my age and keep a store like mine without learning when to pick your fight. I chose this fight. The younger man reached for my wrist like I was a nail in the wrong board. "Do not," I said, low. The sheriff stepped closer, palms out. "Henry," he warned. I am proud to say I did not swing. I could have. I did not. I stood rooted, steady, the way I stood behind my wife when she took her last breath and I told her I would take care of them until I could not. The way I stood in a flood with my father when the river tested the cash wraps and we lifted them on cinder blocks and told each other we would rebuild. But I did not move, and they put cuffs on me. The kind with the plastic chain, not the metal we used to see in movies. Modern mercy. By noon, I had my phone call and a splinter in my palm and a photograph taken by a stranger from the coffee shop across the street. It was the photograph that went viral. Grandfather arrested outside own store. It made me look like a folk hero, which was nice, and a victim, which I am not. This is where I tell you who I am beyond grandfather and owner. I am a man who knows paperwork. That may seem like the least heroic thing to know, but paperwork is where people try to take what is yours. Paperwork is where people hide what they are up to. I have spent 47 years reading terms and conditions with a magnifying glass because my father did not finish the 7th grade and because a man in a tie tried to trick him in 1971 with a supply contract buried in fees that would have eaten our margin alive. We survived that by learning. I have read every paper I have signed since. So yes, they put me in the back seat for 38 minutes while the city clerk checked her system and my daughter cried quietly on the curb. Yes, the boys from Shipex looked like they wanted to be elsewhere. Yes, the man from Marion tried to pat my shoulder through the open window, and yes, I told him he would not touch me again. By the time the sheriff let me out, I had a plan. First thing, I told Danny and Lila as the sheriff took the cuffs off, we stopped the bleeding. I did this, Lila said. There was a smear of icing at the edge of her sleeve from Nora's cookie, a small sweetness clinging in the middle of a new mess. We did this, Danny said, because he is the kind of man who steps in front of a bus if his sister forgets to look both ways. You are my children, I said. That means I did this too. Now we fix it. We triaged. That is the word nurses use when they decide who needs help first. I learned it the year Lorraine got sick. The priorities were clear. The lot behind the mill could not move. The Airstream could. The trailer could. The inventory could. The bank could make a call that would close me by Monday if they thought their collateral was compromised. Marion claimed a security interest in anything tied to the bridge project through our vendor portal, which meant the bank would be nervous simply because it hated surprises. Danny, I said. Go in the office. Open the archive. Find the original deed packet for the creek lot and the bill of sale for the Airstream. Bring me the blue binder for vendor accounts. Do not touch anything else. He ran. Lila, I said. You will call every donor and sponsor listed on your site. Tell them our event is paused for 24 hours while we clear a clerical mix-up. Ask them to hold any shipments. And you will call Marion's number on that man's shirt and request a full audit trail of our signed documents under the Consumer Data Protection and Fair Contracting laws. Use those words. Sound like a person who sues if she has to. Her chin lifted. I can do that. I turned to the sheriff. You will walk with me, I said. Because you are about to witness me recover my property. We crossed to the lot. The men in the vests were halfway through their hookup. The man from Marion watched, sympathetic benevolence fixed to his face like a sticker. Here is the thing, I told him. What you have is a voidable title. Not a valid one. You cannot take goods acquired by fraud and then act like they are yours simply because you typed up a paper that said so. Nothing was fraudulent, he said, but for the first time he looked at the sheriff instead of me. That is how you know someone is not as certain as he pretends. You represented to my daughter that you were consolidating vendor accounts, not securing our inventory and property as collateral. You buried the security interest in 12 pages of a click to proceed screen. You accepted a signature from a person not named in my corporate documents to sign for titled property in my name. The law is not on your side. The sheriff's mouth twitched. He did not love me. He did not hate me. He was pleased to be here. Sir, the Marion rep said, if you would step aside. Or, I said, you can call your legal department and ask them how they feel about my calling the county paper and telling them your company tried to move an old man's Airstream out from behind his store for a charity project. Dad, Lila said behind me, I have their legal on the phone. I took the phone. Time slows when the new variable you need appears in the air like a coin flicked from nowhere. You grab it. You do not marvel at the trick. This is Henry Walker, I said. You do not know me. When we are done talking you will have my name engraved in your office for a different reason. Your rep is about to commit the kind of act that ends up on the evening news. I am willing to assume incompetence in place of malice if you tell your boy to stop moving my property and schedule a meeting at my store for 3 o'clock. Bring a clean version of the integration terms in font size 14. Bring your authorization chain. Bring a checkbook. Silence. Then, we will be there at 3, Mr. Walker. Please do not threaten our staff. Tell your staff to stop touching what belongs to me, and I will behave like a gentleman, I said. Sheriff, you heard. I heard, he said. Shipek stopped moving the trailer. One of them looked relieved. The other looked like he wanted lunch. The rep wiped his forehead and muttered that it was all a misunderstanding. He shook my hand again. I did not let go first. Back inside, we divided the rest. I called my bank. I asked for Ms. Robards, who has managed our line of credit for 18 years and who sends me holiday cards with a handwritten note because I once fixed a cabinet door under her desk after a hinge gave out. I told her what had happened. Henry, she said, is this the part where I cancel everything pending until Monday to give you time to clean this? Yes, I said. Done, she said. And Mr. Marion called me. He will not like me now. That is fine. Your account is frozen for your protection. Come see me Tuesday. I called the county clerk. She was the one who keeps my original deed copies in a vault in the back because she knows I like paper more than screens. I asked her to pull the creek lot file and sit on it. Already got it in my hand, she said. And just so you know, somebody tried to access it through an online portal this morning. I flagged it and locked it. Thank you, Marion, I said, because our families share a 4th of July potluck and because she once brought my wife a tray of baked ziti when Lorraine could not keep anything down. Danny came out of the office with the blue binder and 2 manila envelopes. He had gone pale, then pink, then normal again. He watches a fight the way decent men do, worried he will not do enough, relieved when he is needed. Here, he said. Everything you asked for. Call the stage rental company, I told him. Tell them to cancel the deck. Ask if they got their bolts from Grip Fast or from that no-brand place. If they say no brand, tell them that for our event we require Grip Fast, even if it costs more. Ask if any of their crews are short on clamps. Offer to loan ours. That will get a crew chief on the phone. How do you know they might be short on clamps? He asked. Because everyone is short on clamps, I said. And because their last stage had a wobble. We spent an hour on phones. The bakery promised to hold the sheet cakes. The roofing sponsor doubled their donation when Lila confessed she had made a mistake, that we were pausing to fix it because building on bad foundations never holds. People respect that. The logistics company said they had had trouble with Marion too and that if we needed a truck to pick up returned inventory they would send one free. At 2:30, my granddaughter Nora walked in with her mother and a drawing of a bridge so perfect I wished we could order one from a catalog exactly like it. She hugged my leg and whispered, "Daddy said you got arrested." I did not get arrested, I said. I got detained because Grandpa forgot to use his words. She nodded solemnly. Sometimes I forget to use my words. Then we are the same, I said, and she smiled and handed me the drawing. At 3, Marion came back 3 deep with legal pads and a man whose tie looked like it cost a week's wages. We sat at the counter. The sheriff sat on a bucket of drywall compound like a king on his throne. Lila took notes in a thin hand that made my chest ache because her mother wrote like that too. This was a misunderstanding, the tie began. Our integration terms clearly state. We are past the part where you defend your terms, I said. We are at the part where you keep your job. You will produce a list of everything your system touched. You will release any claim to my title property and any land records. You will provide me, in writing, a retraction that I can file with the clerk and the bank. You will write my sponsor list an apology for the confusion. And you will donate $5,000 to the bridge. $5,000 is excessive, he said. It is generous, I said. Most people would ask for 10. We will donate 2, he said. We will accept 7, I replied. He blinked. He was not used to being told no by someone whose shirt pocket held a chipped carpenter pencil. Good. Fine, he said. 7. We cannot release claim to goods that have already been moved to participants by your auction. Nothing has been moved, I said. Your attempt to move anything stopped when you put cuffs on me in front of the world. We did not put cuffs on you, he began. I am aware, I said, and passed him a still image on my phone of the moment the sheriff did. The headline beneath it made his jaw set. He began to reread the fine print. He did not notice when I stopped him gently with 2 fingers on his legal pad. Do you see how my hand shook? I asked. You could have given my daughter a link in size 12 font and a clean explanation in words a person can read. You did not. Do better. Not for me. For the next old man whose children try to do right by him. He stared at my fingers for a second. He nodded. Sometimes decency gets in through a door not labeled as such. We signed, in font size 14. They left. The trailer stayed. My Airstream remained. The bank unfroze. The clerk filed. The bakery resumed baking. Then we turned to the worst part, finding whatever had slipped out while the town cheered and tooted and fought in the comments section on my behalf. Because nothing ever happens in a story like this alone. Someone had seen the online auction and decided that free means free. They came overnight on the day we paused. They had walked right in between 2 and 4 in the morning because my back door latch sticks if you turn it gentle and because I trusted my neighbors. They had taken the kind of small, easy-to-carry things you can resell in a parking lot by noon, drill bits, circular saw blades, the good tape measures, the new model torpedo levels, every third pack of batteries, the cordless finish nailers you have to lock behind glass if you are smart. They left behind 2 energy drink cans and a scuff mark on the counter and a camera angle my ancient security system could not catch because the lens is fixed. I did not curse. I breathed. I did this, Danny said, again. We did this, Lila said, again. We will fix it, I said, again. All of us. Here is where it helps to be a man people have watched for 60 years. I made 3 calls. The first to Mr. Khan, who runs the pawn shop on Earl Street and who used to buy old toolboxes for me when I was 20 and foolish. The second to the repair shop that gets everything broken before it is resold. The third to the pastor at the church where the youth program director never sleeps and knows every kid who thinks they are too clever to get caught. I did not ask them for names. I asked them to listen. I said, I will not involve the sheriff if somebody leaves 3 backpacks under my back awning by midnight. I said, Bring the goods and take a sandwich from the plate my granddaughter will stack at my old Formica table. I said, leave my store the way you found it and I will not upset the town against you. By 10 p.m., 2 backpacks sat like small apologies by the rear entrance. By 11, a third appeared, heavy and full and smelling faintly of whoever had carried it across the riverside lot. In the morning, the pastor called to say 2 kids wanted to talk to me, that they were scared, that they had crept into a mess, not a plan. They came in at 9 part sheepish and part split-end bravado. One had bruised knuckles. The other wore an oversized hoodie that might have belonged to an older brother. They were 16. Maybe 17. Children, even if they wanted the world to think otherwise. We are sorry, one said, before they Saturday, we thought it was free. The internet said. The internet lies, I said. They nodded like they knew that and needed someone to say the sentence out loud so they knew they were not the only ones who knew. Here is what happens now, I said. You will return everything. You will help me count. You will work today and next Saturday carrying lumber for the footbridge and you will do it where people can see. They looked at each other. They looked at me. I kept my face steady, open. They agreed. We spread the contents of the backpacks across a table I had built in '84 and had refinished 8 times since. The good longest tape measure was missing. So was one finish nailer. The torpedo levels lay side by side like a school of silver fish. The drill bits were all there, if you lined them up and squinted to see which sizes had hidden in the bottom seam. What about the nailer? I asked in a voice that knew exactly how much a nailer costs a kid who makes a mistake. It is gone, one said. We sold it already. For cash. How much? I asked. 40, he said. They saw you coming, I said. That nailer is worth 200 at least. They looked stricken. It was not the shame of stealing. It was the shame of being taken. You can reach people through that door too. Do not do it again, I said. We are done here. They did the work. They carried lumber. They brought the nailer back 4 days later, no questions asked. They brought it with a receipt from the pawn shop. Mr. Khan had charged them 50 after he saw them cry. He told me he paid the man who sold it the difference out of his own pocket. I took that money from my ledger and hand-delivered it back. The pawn shop is a business like mine. It holds the town's broken promises and tries to make them square. By midweek, the sheriff had stopped by to ask if I wanted to press charges against Marion. I did not. The photograph had done the work already. The Thai had donated 7,500 to the bridge instead of 7. He thought he had invented the extra as a goodwill move. It was because he could not do math under pressure and added an extra 500 in front of a clerk who loves me. We all have our gifts. The event had turned from a fiasco into something else. My kids did that. They sent out a letter with their names on it, not mine. Lila wrote it. Danny edited it. It said, "We made a mess. We are fixing it. We are going to rebuild the footbridge anyway. We are asking for your help not because we deserve it, but because the town deserves the bridge. If you are reading this for blood, I apologize. This is not that kind of story." People brought back the items they had picked up when they thought free meant free. They put them on my counter with sheepish faces and said, I thought it was part of the event. They bought a roll of tape to cover the feeling. I took their money and did not make them confess. I called it Ethical Buyback Week. I offered free blade sharpening for anyone who brought back a thing they had walked out with. We stacked a mountain of corrected choices and sharpened 200 blades. I bled once, twice, just enough to put tiny polka dots on the apron that said "Ask me about my bad decisions" because I wore it too. Which brings me to the revenge. If you can call it that. It was not revenge like a gavel. It was not revenge like a man showing his children who is boss. It was a sentence designed to stick to memory without sticking to the soul. I announced it the night we held the town meeting to confirm the bridge plan. The church hall was full. The rental company had agreed to donate the stage. Gripfast sent the right bolts. The mayor promised the city would cover the permit fees we had accidentally multiplied by connecting the wrong form to the wrong account. My grandchildren sat in the front row with the pastor's kids, swinging their legs and whispering about bees. That was Lila's idea, to theme the event around pollinators because the plants along the creek hum in June like the inside of a hive. We had buttons that said "Bridge the Gap, Save the Bees." We had a man from the university who promised to bring an observation hive for the kids to see that bees are gentle most of the time and furious only when you try to take something you are not owed. When it came time for announcements, I stepped to the microphone and cleared my throat. I do not love microphones. They make my voice sound like my father's, and that makes my chest ache, but in a good way. I owe you a confession, I said. My children tried to help me and nearly handed my life to a man in a polo shirt with a magnet on his door. I tried to stop a trailer with my bare hand and had a short, unplanned conversation with our sheriff's handcuffs. We asked for your patience and you gave it. I am going to ask for one more thing. I turned to Lila and Danny. They were already smiling because they know how I think. As an act of penance, I said, my children will, on the day of the bridge rebuild, wear the following: a bright yellow shirt that says "Ask me about my bad decisions" and a set of bee wings. They will hand out lemonade to anyone who asks for it. And for the next 3 Saturdays, they will repaint the gazebo in the square the color my wife wanted but I was too prideful to admit looks beautiful, lavender. There was a beat of silence, and then the hall laughed. Not the hard laugh that cuts. The kind that wraps around a person and suggests that we will all be all right now. Lila put her face in her hands and shook her head and laughed so hard she cried. Danny stood up and bowed. I deserve this, he said, and the town cheered. It is useful to humiliate a person who thinks they cannot be wrong. It is sweeter to let a person who was wrong laugh at themselves in a room full of people who loved their mother and remember the tuxedo he sweated through in August because he insisted on having the reception without air conditioning since his name was on the lease. We rebuilt the bridge 2 Saturdays later. The bees came to see what we were up to, polite, buzzing like gossip. The university man showed us the queen behind her small screen and the children touched their finger to honey and learned that sweetness is labor before it is reward. The pastor's youth carried boards like they weighed nothing. The roofing sponsor sent a crew of 5, and one of them cried quietly behind the truck because he remembered fishing on that bank with his father who died 2 summers ago. I stood with him for a minute. We did not say anything. We just let the water talk. Sometimes that is what men can manage, and it is enough. Ethical buyback week turned into a month. It turned into a calendar page we kept taped to the inside of the register where a person warned me if they had walked out with something in the past and brought it back now without telling me their name. I would nod and say, "Thank you," as if they had just held a door. Sometimes decency gets in through the door labeled embarrassment, and you let it. The gazebo is lavender now. It looks like a storybook. That is the color Lorraine wanted the year the town tore the old one down and built the new one with a grant and a ribbon. I had insisted on white. I said white looks clean and proper. She said lavender looks like a promise. I miss her voice in the morning when I hold my coffee and watch the street wake up. I hear it sometimes anyway, as if it is at the bottom of the cup where the last swallow cools. My daughter wears those bee wings better than she should, on purpose, to make the children laugh. Danny makes lemonade that tastes like the 4th of July in forgiveness. My grandkids keep finding ways to turn this into a game. Ben runs around the gazebo and counts the boards. Nora sits on the bridge rail and reads a book out loud to the creek like it needs a story too. As for the boys who brought me the backpacks, they showed up on their second Saturday without me calling them. They asked for gloves. They asked how you tell a board is level without a level, the way people used to do it when you built a barn with a string and an eye and a sense of how a horizon lives. I taught them to look at the world the way a bubble looks for center. You can teach a person anything when they come to you empty-handed and ready to carry. I did sit with my children and tell them the part that matters the most, that you cannot move a man's life by clicking a box that says I agree when he is not in the room. That paperwork is a kind of sacred, unglamorous thing. That respect sometimes looks like a person who reads the whole thing while you make a sandwich and bring it to him because you know it will take him longer than you want and because you want it to be right. They listened. They did not argue. They confessed the part one had tried not to think about. They had thought I was tired of the paper and that I was too old to care about the shape of it. I thought I was helping you, Lila said. I did not think about how much of you was in the way you do things. Do you know what you just said? I asked. She frowned. You said you did not think. That is the only thing that went wrong. Then here is my penance, she said. I will do the forms with you now. All of them. You teach me. I will teach you the parts that live on screens. We will meet in the middle. I accept, I said. We stand together now at the counter on Tuesdays after the lunch rush. We do the drifty tasks. Permits. Vendor reconciliations. Authorize, but this time with a clear eye. We both wear glasses some days. She pushes hers up on her head. I set mine down and forget them on top of the sandpaper. We laugh. We argue about the best way to categorize plaster washers. We split the alphabet and meet at M like a couple who has learned how to talk without supervision. There is not much else to tell. The store is fine. The town is better because it got to practice being what it is, people who do not step over things that can be fixed. The bridge stands. It holds a family at a time if they are careful. It held my grandchildren and me on a Tuesday morning when I could not bear the ringing of the phone and the steady hum of traffic and needed to hear water and remember that things move whether I watch them or not. We stood in the middle and I told them about their grandmother's laugh, how it sounded like a bell caught in a breeze. Nora asked if the bees mind that the gazebo is purple. I told her they do not mind anything that does not hurt them. Ben asked if Grandpa could wear the wings. I did, for 2 minutes, to the applause of a squirrel and my own children who had earned the right to laugh at me. There are days when I still touch the edge of the airstream and think about how close we came to watching someone hitch my past to a different truck. There are days when I run my hand along the lavender rail and imagine Lorraine scolding me gently for taking my time. You cannot rush a man through learning when you have spent your life asking him to hurry, her voice says, and I nod, and I try to live up to it. If you are waiting for the part where I cut my children out of my will or taught them a lesson they will never forget with a hammer to the heart, you will be disappointed. My children knew they were loved before they knew they had done wrong. That is why this worked. That is why they wore the wings and smiled while we took photographs and the town teased and the creek whispered along to a song nobody wrote. Grandpa, Nora said that day, if the bridge is fixed, what are we going to fix next? I looked around. The storefronts needed paint in places. The playground slide squeaked. The statue of the town's founder had a pigeon problem and a cynical tilt. The answer was everything and also nothing. Some days you fix the town. Some days you fix your own house. Some days you fix a sentence between a father and a daughter so the words come out easy again. We will find something, I said. We could repaint the statue, Ben suggested. Only if the town says yes, I said. And only if we can do it in lavender. He laughed, and the town laughed with him, and for a second I heard Lorraine laugh too, and I could have sworn the bees approved. For the record, I kept the aprons. They hang on the pegboard behind the counter with the carpenter pencils and the twine and the paper bags that we still use because not everything needs to be modern to be kind. Sometimes, when a person tells me a story about a mistake they made and how they are trying to fix it, I hand them an apron and say, "Put this on for an hour." It helps. They do. They smile. They carry something heavy for someone else. They leave a little lighter. That is as close to revenge as I will ever need. And some nights, after I count the washers by tens and lock the doors and stand on the bridge while the creek tells me a story about movement without malice, I look over my shoulder toward the square. The gazebo glows faintly under the streetlight. It is the color of a bruise that is healing. It is the color of flowers that mean devotion. It is the color of an old man's relief. My name is Henry. I am 68. I am a grandfather. My children once accidentally handed my life to a man in a crisp polo, and we took it back together. They made it right. I made them paint a gazebo in bee wings. We laughed. The town laughed. And I fell asleep that night glad to be exactly where I am, in the middle of something that does not need to be perfect to be mine.
Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support the creation of more stories like this. Have a great day or evening.